All right, we're going in. Best hunter spec, the survival hunter. So as usual, we're looking at the spec with no legendaries, no set items, a reasonable item level for this heroic dungeon. No conduits. I've taken out all my conduits. You still have the soulbind powers that you can't get rid of, but essentially trying to get rid of all Shadowlands borrowed power when we're looking at this.
No hard feelings about that little disagreement that we had in Zul'Dazar. Mazala got me at a disadvantage. But if you collect me mojo from a few of me business partner, then together we could turn the tables on it.
I've played this.
Go on now. Follow the path. And don't you be taking no for an answer.
Pretty good amount recently. This spec a little bit different than it was in Shadowlands. We'll look at talents and stuff a little later, I guess.
Always be willing to make a deal. Well, what you give me that look for? Sure, Hakar be a lower blood, but a deal's a deal, man. Just get me mojo back.
And part of why I played this so much is my guy just hasn't got a bow in a dungeon yet. So I have full heroic gear except for whoops. Except for like one slot. Except all the times that I've been trying to get a bow in both the normal and the heroic dungeons, I never get a bow or a gun. Unfortunately, we didn't kill those quite in time. But I really do like the harpoon. Just jumping around with the harpoon. Thanks. So I am taking that talent where the cooldown on the harpoon resets when you kill an enemy, because that's great stuff.
Face the wrath of the souls, my Atalan. Rise and die, mortal. Power was mine.
I think was that the bow one for this dungeon? No, it's dealer. Maybe I'll get a bow out of dealer.
Gonna be back. You can't keep a bad load down.
Because of the gap between the regular 9.0 quest items and dungeon gear. So they increase dungeon gear each patch. The I have the quest bow, which is 158, I think. Yeah, 158, or it's a gun, compared to 249 for heroic dungeon gear. So it's like 90 eye levels difference.
The only power that counts be dead, and dead be coming for them all.
What's this guy doing? Pulling all of it, huh? Kinda hairy. I mean, it doesn't really matter because it's heroic.
Be trolls who be coming to ask for old boy and Sandy's help. All kinds be making deals with the lower adept. Like these two crazy little gnomes here. They both be hungry for power. So we were more than happy to have them.
Don't know where our tank's going, but I guess I could misdirect onto him.
Maybe needing that mojo back.
Dang it. Thing on me. So yeah, one of the nice things about the survival hunter is it does very reliable damage. In a simple manner. The basic focus spending ability Raptor Strike does kind of a ridiculous amount of damage for how you can basically spam 4 of them in a row on a full bar of energy. Because it's somewhere around as good as a warrior, arms warrior mortal strike as far as damage goes. And the arms warrior can't just spam mortal strike because mortal strike has a cooldown of like 5 seconds or something. So yeah, Raptor Strike is generally my top damage in a dungeon, even though it's a single target ability. Most characters in a dungeon, you'll have a AoE ability for your top damage. Part of that's because your AoE is spread out over a few different abilities. So we're AoEing with Wildfire Bomb, Butchery, Serpent Sting and Fury of the Eagle. So, on the talents, I'm using Serpent Sting with the talent that makes it shoot 2 extra targets.
I'll teach you to mess with genius.
I realized I didn't even lust on the first boss.
Power beyond your comprehension.
I always use a lust pet.
Power beyond your comprehension. Power beyond your comprehension.
We'll just save it here for the second part here.
Rather give up the mojo than lose her.
Everybody doing damage. Usually I run after bombs, but we're gonna just burst this down, I think.
You're the best, Billy. Let's never fight again. For a while, at least.
Oh, sweetie, you do care. Mwah!
True love. Now ain't that sweet? Old one
So
son,
I
the
got
share romance
some
back
pants,
in the
which I
day.
probably don't need.
More
Yeah.
than this shit.
So the stat weights, I think for pure DPS, crit and haste are the best. Because versatility's got some defensive component to it, which is why versatility's
All them sacrifices, all that
usually not
how they were gonna
so great for pure DPS on most classes.
Sandy the one gonna be forgotten.
And then mastery for the survival hunter works kind of similar to versatility. In this case, it gives you damage on your focus spending abilities, and it gives you a very weak healing over time thing. So, yeah. When you tally it all up, your focus spending abilities
Looking for power too.
ends up as like half your damage or 2/3 your damage or something, and just the math
So careful now.
doesn't work out for it being that great for a damage stat. So I'm looking mostly for crit and haste for this guy, but particularly crit because I'm taking a talent down here for 4% extra crit damage, so that makes crit slightly better than what it would be on most characters. Oh, where's he going? seems like I didn't get sleeping powder in any of that. It's kind of a miracle. Been wondering all this time, what's the item level on this demon hunter? 239.
I would step lightly if
I took off some gear, so I'm at 199.
away with you.
But I'm not entirely sure exactly
Care to give this one?
how well that takes into account you taking off gear.
This should be entertaining. Now, where to put you? My curious can prove quite deadly. Oh. Have you ever wished you could fly? Now, where to put you? You strike. A hard bargain.
Them brokers be up to something. You best be keeping an eye on them. Now hurry back with them mojo.
So yeah, for a single target, since I have the Serpent Sting over here, generally I put Serpent Sting on them first, then you use Raptor Strike to spend focus, and you want to use Kill Command basically on cooldown to generate focus. Because ultimately your DPS is going to be limited by for like boss fights is going to be limited by how much you can generate focus. And then got this talent over here, Flanking Strike, which is extra. It's sort of like a Raptor Strike in damage, but instead of spending focus, it generates focus. So it's a good thing to use, although I'm not terribly good at using it properly. So run over here. There's no heroic portals for this, but you can
Don't you be counting me out, me forever.
can finish heroic
Better to pay attention.
faster by running down the side like I did. Obviously no one did that one over there, so we are gonna have to go again. So the portal we need to take is where? The left portal. Okay. Also, I haven't been very good at this, is that since Wildfire Bomb, which is one of your main AoE abilities, since that doesn't cost any focus, you really do want to use it in single target. But yeah, I haven't really been very good at using it. essentially you want to use it when you're
You never care about your people. Only power.
whatchamacallit, when your kill command's on cooldown, and yeah, basically when your kill command's on cooldown and you're not at max what's this called? Focus.
Times change.
I just had to
man.
call it focus.
Mortals never be as weak as you believe them to be. You see, they have potential.
Alright, so yeah, overall, see, Raptor Strike is #1 in damage. It's followed by Butchery, which is this talent here for melee AoE attack, cost focus. Now, the current state of things is it's like really, really obvious that they have no one working on this fucking class. Because if you do the DPS math of Carve versus Butchery, and you look at the focus costs, we can do Butchery at 2.3k damage every 8 seconds, compared to, well, 8.1 seconds. And it has 3 charges, so it's like stacked up that you can do better burst damage with it, compared to Carve, which costs an extra 5 focus, and it's only 746 damage for a 5.4 second cooldown. So Butchery does about 3 times as much damage, and the cooldown isn't even twice as long, and Butchery costs less focus. So for damage per focus cost, Butchery is more than 3 times as good as Carve. There's no world in which you use Carve currently. I think Carve used to not have a cooldown, but still, with the numbers of like damage per focus, and because Butchery has charges, there's no way you use Carve unless it does like it basically have to do the same damage as Butchery, I think, to actually use it. With the, because of the focus cost. Now, if the focus cost was like I don't even know. See, the DPS on it's just too low. Like the DPS per focus cost on it is just way too low right now. So what it used to be was, it used to be like a Butchery was more of a burst damage type of thing, and then Carve was more like a sustained AoE damage type of thing. So they need to make it like twice as much damage as it currently is, and cost like 20 focus or something. They're that far off Carve actually being a viable talent. Yeah. So that's my rant on that part. Let's see. Wildfire Bomb shows up on there twice because there's a initial damage and a damage over time, which is over 6 seconds. I wanted to grab the weekly quest over here real quick. Yeah, there's talents for Wildfire Bomb where I'm getting 25% extra damage and 50% damage on the initial explosion. And then this also gives it charges. So it has charges, yeah. So these talents are really important for the AoE damage for the survival hunter. This talent, Kill Command, gives 6 additional focus. It goes from 15 focus generated to 21 focus. So that's a really big difference.
The purpose reveals all.
Now you do get focus just normally regenerating. So it's not like Kill Command is your only source of focus. But it's still definitely a very good talent. Like I mentioned earlier, I get the harpoon with the one where it if you kill an enemy, it gives the cooldown reset. Not necessarily super useful in the dungeon, but the harpoon generating focus is useful in the dungeon. So definitely I definitely like that talent. Some of these other ones are definitely not too important. This one here for Butchery to reduce the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb. And Flanking Strike. This is a very good talent. Very important, I should say. I don't know if it's really good. It's like good to the point that it's mandatory, which makes it kind of a bad talent in that way, I guess you could say. Because I feel like no talent should be mandatory. But yeah, that's basically mandatory for any kind of AoE damage situation. Obviously, if you're just doing like a single target raid boss fight or something, you don't care about that. But in like most situations, this is a very, very important talent. Let's see. So yeah, there's some talents over around here that are pretty weak. So the big damage cooldown for Survival Hunter used to be this thing called Coordinated Assault. And what it did in Shadowlands was it gave you, I think it was a 20% damage buff for you and your pet. And then there was a talent for it where your raptor strikes on the same, I think it was like on the same target as your pet. I think it had some little caveat like that or something. But your raptor strikes increase the duration by like 2 or 3 seconds or something. So you actually had this 20% damage buff up for a fairly long time because your raptor strikes just kept extending it and extending it. But here in the Dragonflight pre-patch, they changed the functionality of Coordinated Assault, and I don't like it very much anymore. So I like the old method, the whole just flat 20% damage is very boring. So it's good that they got rid of that. Because if you get something like 20% haste or 20% crit, then you really feel it. But just a flat 20% damage, you don't really like feel it as you're playing. So it's a lot more boring. Even though it's good. So I do like that they changed it. Its functionality, but I don't like what they changed it to. So basically it buffs your wildfire bomb / kill shot, which I don't look at either of those as being a neither of those is really like the fundamental thing for the survival hunter. Really it's the raptor strike, because the whole deal with the survival hunter is that it's a hunter that uses a melee weapon instead of a ranged weapon. So yeah, that stuff is probably viable. I don't like them. Now over here they put something called Spearhead, and Spearhead is... Oh yeah, I forgot. The Coordinated Assault also did something where it like increased your kill command's chance to reset from like 25% to 50% or something like that. So you got lots more kill command resets, which in turn gives you more focus to spend on more raptor strikes. So that was another important part of it. But now they put this new thing called Spearhead, and Spearhead is more similar to what Coordinated Assault used to be. In this case, Spearhead buffs your pet damage and gives you more damage off of your raptor strike, basically. And then it's got this talent where kill command resets extend the duration of Spearhead, and Spearhead has a 20% increased kill command reset chance. So this is a lot more similar to what Coordinated Assault used to be, but it's I don't think it's as good. It's less damage for you, I think. So yeah, I didn't go with either of those for my talent tree. I decided to go with Fury of the Eagle. So that's this thing where it just spams attacks in front of you for a few seconds, and that's it's got this talent thing where it gets bonus crit chance against low health enemies. So it's 50. So for 1 point down here out of 3, just 1 point. It's kind of a 1 point wonder thing, is for enemies below 35% health, it's got 50% extra crit chance. So yeah, that gives you, as long as you save it for when the enemies are low health, that gives you like giga AoE damage basically. So yeah, for dungeons, obviously that's really great. For single target stuff, I would definitely go for one of these other ones. The Coordinated Assault, because it's Wildfire Bomb and the the thing down here for kill shot is that it strikes additional targets. Sort of not that great for single target anyways. So I would probably stick with spearhead for single target. But yeah. Talents are, yeah, that was my rationale for that. So these talents up here are okay, but I feel like it's better to skip them to get other stuff down here. Similar with Mongoose Bite, replaces your Raptor Strike. So it's sort of this slightly more bursty version of Raptor Strike. I don't think the investment's really worth it. So that's why I skipped that stuff. I think I mentioned already we get Flanking Strike just because it's great single target damage and it generates 30 focus for you for another Raptor Strike on a relatively short cooldown. So good stuff. Yeah. Let's look at. Oh yeah, there was also. I don't remember where it was. There's also, you can tell that this spec is really scuffed. In that there were a couple glaring tooltip errors. I can't remember exactly over here which one it was. Over here it's this one. There's a double comma after aspect of the cheetah. Somewhere over here there was one where the tooltip says the twice in a row. Or it says the twice in a row. Two thes back to back. I just don't remember which tooltip it was. But anyways. So yeah, that stuff's scuffed. The whole carve being like 2 to 3 times worse than it needs to be to compete with butchery is really scuffed. Them putting barrage in the tree is pretty scuffed because yeah, you don't use a ranged weapon. Them leaving steady shot and arcane shot is pretty scuffed because you can't use those without a ranged weapon. So there's all this scuffed stuff that shows a real lack of polish for the survival hunter. But it's still generally pretty fun to play. As far as talents over here goes, unlike some of the classes, there's almost no damage in the top half of the tree. Really, you just get kill shot and kill shot crit damage, and then you get a bunch of other stuff that isn't super important per se. I do really like survival of the fittest with the extra 20% damage reduction, because aspect of the turtle makes you pretty much invincible, but you can't attack during aspect of the turtle. So you saw a couple times where I used survival of the fittest to have a 40% damage reduction against some parts where you take a bunch of damage, and that allows me to keep attacking during that section instead of taking no damage in aspect of the turtle. So yeah, I like that. I definitely recommend getting the interrupt, the misdirection. I really like the movement speed if you haven't attacked in 3 seconds. I feel like that's most important on Survival Hunter compared to the other Hunter specs. Because if you are not in range, if you're not in melee range, it's nice to have that 30% extra move speed to get in melee range to attack people. If you're like far away from something and you do your serpent sting, it does disable your aspect of the pack or trailblazer, sorry. It does get rid of that 30% move speed. So it's something to keep in mind. You get the stealth thing, you get the pet stun. Nothing too fancy. There's this stuff over here that's like not very useful for survival hunters. And then the bottom section of the tree, the bottom 3 rows, you get currently 6 points to spend in. That's where most of the damage on the tree is. Basically everything except for the kill shot stuff, like I said. So, for the survival hunter, there's pet damage and kill command stuff over here. Now, kill command is a very important skill for the survival hunter because it generates focus, but the overall damage of it is 4.5% of my damage. So obviously I shot the training dummies a couple times here, so we could be generous and say, oh, my pet's still attacking, I didn't even notice. Yeah, so we could be generous and say like 5% of my damage is kill command damage. But basically those talents are not worth it. This 4% crit chance for 2 points is pretty good. I think it's better than Master Huntsman here. But my style for Shadowlands Survival Warrior definitely used the Serpent Sting with the Hydra's Bite to shoot extra enemies, spread that poison damage around. So Serpent Sting damage per focus is very good. So I really like that. I would say though that Explosive Shot is probably also viable. But these points to get to it are really weak. So I don't really like that. I don't see a use case for Steel Trap. It gives you a long duration route, sort of long duration, 20 seconds route on a 30-second cooldown, but it'll break from damage basically. So I don't think that's really worth it. You have to really specifically plan on like kiting an enemy or something to get proper use out of that. So maybe it's good for PvP. I don't know. I imagine it doesn't last 20 seconds in PvP though, so it's very strange ability. There's these ones here. For after the 4% crit chance, you can just spend 1 point to get the Death Chakram or the Stampede. Both of these seem pretty weak to me. But on my other hunter, I'm not taking the Serpent Sting because I'm talking about on a marksmanship hunter. I'm not taking Serpent Sting, so I don't have to spend these points. So I have enough on the marksmanship hunter to get explosive shot, and I get the Death Chakram, which gives you a little bit of focus, and it does some damage, but not a lot. So it's an okay ability. Stampede is it's less damage than a freaking wildfire bomb over a longer period of time. So it just seems really weak for a 2-minute cooldown. So I haven't even tried it. The numbers just don't add up. So yeah, because I'm getting Serpent Sting, I can't get one of those. But if I was getting Explosive Shot instead of Serpent Sting, then I could get rid of all 4 of these points here, which leaves me enough to put the 2 here, get the Explosive Shot, and then probably get the Death Chakram. Because like I said, the Stampede numbers just seem really, really bad for a 2-minute cooldown. Not that Death Chakram is very good, but it does generate focus. Doesn't, so it's not it's worth throwing out there when you have the chance. So yeah, lots of issues I have with talent choices. They seem really bad. Yeah. Over here, I don't think I actually finished talking over here. So there's these 2 points here, which give you 40% extra damage on your kill shot. Serpent Sting, Arcane Shot, Steady Shot, and Explosive Shot. So as I already mentioned, Arcane Shot and Steady Shot on the Survival Hunter are absolutely useless because they require a ranged weapon, so I don't know why they're even in the fucking tooltip. But yeah, the 40% extra damage for your Serpent Sting and your kill shot, pretty good. But so if you were to go with Coordinated Assault and get this stuff, you definitely want that for the extra kill shot damage. But coming from this side of the tree, you can take out these points here and put them here, because 4% crit damage is pretty weak. But over here you have Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite have a 30% chance to apply Serpent Sting to your target. That is really weak if you are manually taking Serpent Sting. So either of these choices is really weak. And for this next one, Wildfire and Fusion, I don't really like these. So Shrapnel bomb, the bleed that you get from shrapnel bomb is pretty weak. The pheromone bomb gives you 100% kill command reset chance. So that one's probably the best. But you're not generally saving, like, I should say, for single target, the pheromone one is definitely pretty good. But for AoE, it's not like you're gonna stop pressing your AoE buttons to spam kill commands to get your focus back up. Your AoE damage rotation is kind of this rhythm of wildfire bombs and butchery and occasional serpent stings, basically, and occasional kill commands. So you don't really want to do multiple kill commands, and also that rotation doesn't run you out of focus very quickly, because as mentioned earlier, your wildfire bomb doesn't cost focus, and your butcheries, you're kind of like spreading these out instead of mashing all your butcheries at once. Because if you wildfire bomb and then you spend a few butcheries, you're gonna get your initial wildfire bomb charge back, and then you're not gonna get full usage out of the cooldown reduction from butchery. So yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but basically pheromone bomb is not very good in AoE. It's better like a single target thing. And then volatile bomb is I think it used to do like a AoE explosion on each target that had serpent sting on them. But it works a little bit differently now, and it's not like AoE times AoE type of thing. So it's it'll apply serpent sting to a few targets, which is probably pretty good if you don't already have serpent sting. But I do have serpent sting, so I think this talent is pretty weak for me. But this quick shot one is pretty weak also. Let's see, our arcane shot damage is, oh yeah, that's probably why that's actually even in this tooltip. Arcane shot, this thing gives you an arcane shot some of the time when your kill command cooldown resets, but the overall math on it is pretty bad. So arcane shot damage, 0.5% of my damage from that triggered arcane shot. So that's a 0.5% damage boost point right there. Very weak. But the reason to get that is to get this and this. Whereas if you get this instead of this, then you can't get these points here. So yeah. Build was like that. But with the crit damage here instead of the chance to serpent sting. But overall, a bunch of weak, very, very weak points here. But stuff on the other side of the tree is similarly weak. Like kill command damage by 5%. Kill command, like I said earlier, was like about 5% of my damage. So 5% of 5% of your damage is 0.25%, I think. 0.25% damage increase for each point spent here. So again, it's very, very weak points to get into the good stuff. So not a fan of the talents, but the gameplay, I think overall generally fine. So yeah, do lots of initial serpent sting, and then you hook in. You do wildfire bombs to get some initial damage. Use butchery to give you cooldown reduction of your wildfire bombs, and you just kind of alternate back and forth there a bit. Throw some kill commands in between to keep your focus from dropping too low. And then when the enemies are low, use the Fury of the Eagle to get the higher crit chance when the enemies are low. And that's the AoE damage, and the single target damage is yeah, Serpent Sting, Harpoon in, Raptor Strike to spend, Kill Command to generate, and also use your Flanking Strike to generate as well. Weird. Hotkey apparently doesn't work when my mouse is hovering over the ability. But yeah, use Serpent Sting. Try to keep Serpent Sting up because the damage per focus cost is good. But after that, your Raptor Striking and Kill Commanding. And yeah, sometimes you'll get the kill command reset, but you don't want to use it right away because your focus is so high that you'll lose a bunch of it anyways. So somewhere around 70 focus is where you want to use your kill commands. If you have more than 70 focus, you're gonna lose some of the focus gain essentially, because it gives you 21 focus, but also it incurs the global cooldown during which you'll be regenning some focus. So if we watch my thing get back up to 70, then it goes up to like 95 by the time I can Raptor Strike. So yeah, don't kill command when your focus is too high, or else it gets wasted. But yeah, lots of decent damage in AoE. Pretty good damage for a single target. We could look at actual boss fights. Let's look at Car the Soul Flare. Apparently the Warlock did a lot in that fight. But yeah, it's just the Raptor Strike component of your damage goes up a lot in those single target fights. Interesting. apparently single target damage is worse than I thought. Although you do still have to... I didn't actually look at what the Warlock's gear was, but the Demon Hunter was 40 eye levels above me, so... Even though overall damage we were about matched with the Demon Hunter, the single target looks like we were having a lot more trouble. Interesting. Thought the single target was better, but apparently not. Because you really do get fairly decent damage out of the raptor strikes when they crit, particularly. But yeah, maybe it's not quite as good as I thought. But yeah, that's where I've been spending most of my time on my hunter, is the survival spec. My other hunter, I played some on the Dragonflight Prepatch here. I've been playing some of the marksmanship spec. Haven't tried the Beastmaster spec, because for Shadowlands the Beastmaster spec was the OP spec, particularly with one of the Covenant abilities. I think it was the Ardenweald Covenant ability, called Wild Spirits, and it just, that Covenant ability synergizes really well, specifically with the Beastmaster spec. So they did crazy AoE damage with it. So it was super busted, and so I haven't really been interested in looking at it. But it's probably going to be weaker in Shadowlands, or not Shadowlands, Dragonflight. But we'll see more when I look at that. But yeah, we're let me just end the video. Basically, there's not really anything more to talk about, I think, for our survival hunter here.